Aren't you supposed to take her?
Imagine turning on the news one day and the headline reads, President Donald Trump, shot in the chest during an assassination attempt, goes on to deliver a 90-minute speech before seeking medical attention. Or President Barack Obama loses sight in his right eye during a White House boxing match. Or maybe President George W. Bush regularly leaves the White House to go skinny dipping in the Potomac River in the dead of winter. These don't sound like things a typical president would do, but they're all things that Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States, did, and many more. He was born in New York City on October 27, 1858. He was frail and sickly as a child, and doctors told him he had asthma and a heart condition. They said that he should take it easy, stay indoors, and when the time came, find a desk job. Theodore Roosevelt did none of these things. He enjoyed boxing and weightlifting, and he was an avid hunter for the rest of his life. He said that this strenuous lifestyle is what helped him overcome his bad health. According to New World Encyclopedia, he was also an extremely intellectually gifted individual. He graduated from Harvard magna cum laude and attended Columbia Law School, studying to be a lawyer. He said that law was boring and dropped out and got married and joined the New York State Assembly as a representative. He was the youngest representative at the time, and he wrote more bills than any other. He was moving through the ranks of public service when tragedy struck. His mother and wife both died on the same day. He was grief-stricken and ran away to the west, to the Badlands of North Dakota. He was basically a cowboy at these times and herded cattle and served as a sheriff, where he even rounded up a posse of outlaws. He got into fistfights, and eventually he returned to New York City, where he was ran for mayor. He lost the election to be mayor, but he did become the police commissioner. He took an interest in the Spanish-American War, where he enlisted and formed the Rough Riders. The Rough Riders were a group of volunteer cavalry that ranged from Harvard graduates to cowboys. They are most famous for their bold lead up San Juan Hill during the battle. When the battle was won, he returned to New York City, famous as a war hero. He was elected as governor in 1898. The Republicans were scared of him because he was very progressive, so they thought they would put him on the bill to become vice president, where he would have less power as governor. William McKinley got elected president, and Theodore Roosevelt was vice president. William McKinley was assassinated, and so at the age of 42, Theodore Roosevelt became the youngest president in history. In his first term, he enacted the Square New Deal. It was a long-due American workplace reform that regulated industry and protected American consumers. He also bulked up the Navy. He believed that America should serve as a superpower and an enforcer to the rest of the world. His quote was, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." He also oversaw that the Panama Canal be finished and that the Japanese and Russian War be brought to an end. He was what many consider to be the first environmental president. He brought an act called National Monuments Act, where he preserved over 200 million acres of land, including the Grand Canyon. He also was the person who named the White House by embossing it on his stationery. In 1909, he left the presidency to go on safari. He thought he was leaving the country in the capable hands of Howard Taft. He quickly figured out that he did not approve of the way Taft was leading the country, so he ran again against Woodrow Wilson. At one point on the election trail, he was shot in the chest before his speech. He himself proved that the wound was non-fatal, so he continued to give the speech for 90 minutes before seeking medical attention, while bleeding out of his chest. He ultimately lost the campaign to Woodrow Wilson. He criticized Woodrow Wilson throughout his entire presidency, saying that he was too neutral during World War I when it was breaking out, and that he needed to try to be more aggressive towards the Germans. He planned to run again in 1919, but at the age of 60, he suffered a coronary embolism and died in his sleep. In conclusion, Theodore Roosevelt was not a perfect man or a perfect president, but he did lead a unique life where he overcome a lot of struggles and poor health. He went on to be a very robust man and one of the most athletic presidents of our time. When his son heard of his death, he sent a simple telegram to the rest of his siblings. It said, "The old lion is dead." So I will leave you with a quote from the old lion himself. "I have never envied a man who lived an easy life, but I have envied many men who led difficult lives and led them well."